Are you aware that there are areas in Florida and Jamaica with similar limestone? These two images showcase limestone that I came across. The lower image is specifically in Treasure Beach, Jamaica, and the upper image is specifically in Westlake, Florida. So then, in this video, I take you on a little journey, giving you some insight into the geologic history and some questions that will leave you puzzling, but at the same time digging for further answers as to if it is a case that both Jamaica and Florida has similar lithology in its limestone, why does there exist these key differences? Let's take a walk. So again, this is a video of an outcrop in Westlake. You will see fossils that resemble bivalves, and these bivalves are relatively large in size. My finger was used as a scale. And now you should also see those indentations. What it is that I'm highlighting here is the karstic appearance of these rocks. And this karst gives a reflection or gives indication as regards to the groundwater and or why it's the case that Florida is filled with lakes. Now here I have another bivalve fossil, and this is specifically in the Pembroke Pines area. You can see that just the same. I am here limestone rock. In this clip here, I highlight some coral or a coral skeleton, and there is also a bivalve fossil that I was able to dig up from within the sand, carbonate sand. Now, in terms of the overall area between Westlake, Pembroke Pines, and Sunny Isles Beach, the total length is approximately 100 kilometers in between. Now, where I am here is at the Treasure Beach in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. And if you are looking closely, you'll see that in terms of the outlook, it looks relatively similar to the rock that is in Westlake. There does also exist bivalves and large snail shells. This map here is just reflecting where Treasure Beach is located, specifically in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. Now, what it is that I wanted to see with this clip here is a karst outcrop, and specifically a layer that appears to be bauxitic that is sandwiched in between these two karstic sections of the outcrop. Here you can see basically it's just a close-up of what is this bauxitic look. So my first question is, how is it then that we have in Jamaica's karst bauxite, and yet still for where it is that I covered in Florida, especially the karstic zones, there does not exist any bauxite? This question is even more so of significance, given that if you will do some research, it indicates that bauxite is found in depressions, specifically within limestone areas. Florida is dominant with karstic limestone, yet there isn't that much mention of bauxite, and I have not seen any bauxite deposit, whether it be on a macro scale or even on a smaller scale whereby I was looking closely with my eyes. There does though exist some other similarities. I mean, this basically shows some spherical indentations, and these are the mysteries that I actually had a video on, specifically in Treasure Beach. How do you do these circular vent-like depressions exist? What's the cause behind it? But if it's a case now that we're going to go into looking into the geologic time scale. What it is now that I would have come across is that the geologic time scale for both Florida and Jamaica is relatively similar. And this similarity is thanks to the biologic remnants or the fossils that are within these rocks. It's key for you to keep in mind that in terms of the distance between Treasure Beach and where I would have gathered these collections in Florida is over 1,000 kilometers. So that is just giving you something to think about in terms of, you know, there is a great distance between both of these geographies, yet still there is more than likely some similarity. Now, in terms of the time or the date of Treasure Beach geology or lithology, it is said that the lithology is Miocene in age, and in Florida's context, its age ranges from being that of thousands of years to millions of years, Oligocene to Quaternary in age. With this being said, Florida's bedrock is said to be uh, composed of uh, Pangea layers, and these layers basically are of metamorphic and igneous. Just for you to be, or just for you to know, Pangea was once the supercontinent. So Florida, in that respect, is much older than Jamaica. Now, having said this, though, in terms of what it gives insight of is that where Jamaica is concerned, because Jamaica's origin in terms of geology timescale centers it around the Jurassic period. Specifically, the rocks that are of Jurassic age in Jamaica's context are said to be those of igneous in nature. Now, a question that pops up again in my head is that if Jamaica's uh, age is younger than that of Florida, um, why is it that, again, if both the Jamaica and Florida are similar in age and would have also undergone some similarity in terms of the environment for its limestone or their limestone to be developed, why doesn't Florida also have significant deposition of bauxite? Especially if you consider then now that Florida's bedrock should be comprised of igneous metamorphic rock said to be schistic and gneiss metamorphic, and the gneiss gives indication of high temperature, or basically significant uh, heat for its rocks to have been metamorphosed. So there is underneath that layer the provision of silica minerals. Why is it that some of these minerals were not able to be deposited along or within the carbonate plateau of Florida? That's a question that, in my view, demands some further degree of investigation. And it also gives insight into the reality that, bauxite, in as regards to its presence, is more than just residual deposition or a product of weathering and or erosion. This question just gives insight into the relevance of continued work, collaborative work, and why it's a case that work can never stop as regards to, you know, the research required of understanding the history in the geographies as well as the geology of the geographies that are across the world. This for me is just very fascinating. I mean, it gives insight into the realities that, you know, there more than likely are factors that subject Jamaica's origin to be that of, pretty much not necessarily being close to where Florida origin would have been. And it also gives indication that there are other forces that are in play that are reasons behind why potentially bauxite exists in Jamaica's limestone relative to that of Florida. And yet still, there does exist the similarity in fossils that are present in Florida's limestone in comparison to Jamaica's limestone. There is so much we don't know. And with that being said, there is so much to learn. The journey continues.